Madam Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Jim, for your very kind introduction. I'm very honored to accept this award, not least having looked at the list of the 18 previous honorees whom Jim referred to, and I'm not sure that I live up to the high standards of excellence that they have provided prior to my being here this evening, but I certainly am very appreciative of this honor and humbled by it. This is actually not an easy week for anyone to accept an award in the United States because all of us, I'm sure, witnessed the award presented on Tuesday by President Obama to Staff Sergeant Sal Giunta, the Medal of Honor. And my reflection in anticipation of this evening was that the courage and selflessness that his story represented rendered almost insignificant whatever achievements you are kindly honoring here this evening. 2 or 3 days earlier, we saw the release from house arrest of Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi, a pillar in the defense of freedom of speech, the rule of law, and human dignity. And when I was thinking about these two outstanding individuals, in a sense, neither Sal Giunta or Aung San Suu Kyi are international citizens, at least superficially. Sal Giunta has, I believe, visited only one foreign country in his life, Afghanistan. And Aung San Suu Kyi has, of course, not had her passport stamped for more than 20 years. But in another sense, both are true international citizens because the human values they represent so admirably are universal values respected by almost everyone around the world. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there are those of us who spend our lives doing simple international things each day, making connections, sharing best practices, enabling trade and investment, facilitating student exchanges. And let me acknowledge in particular, as Bill did, the New England Consular Corps, represented here this evening, and other bilateral business organizations such as the British American Business Council of New England, government agencies such as MOITI and Massport, with which I'm associated, which handles 3 million international visitors each year into Logan Airport. And then there are the cultural entities such as the MFA, Boston Symphony, Boston Ballet, who bring international art and artists to our city. But above all tonight, I also want to acknowledge WorldBoston. As an educator, I know the good work WorldBoston does in international education through the academic WorldQuest program and many other student exchange activities. I met some very interesting young people earlier this evening who were part of the program for student exchange in Japan, which is something that has been going for many years and is highly valued, I think. So I want to just, if you wouldn't mind, just take a word on my behalf to thank, please, Bill, the WorldBoston staff who organized tonight's event, and the WorldBoston Board of Directors, chaired by Jim, for all you do every day in the area of international cultural and educational exchange, and also for this memorable evening. So thank you very much, Jim and Bill. Thank you. Now, I've been reflecting this past week on what makes an international citizen, and it's surely much more than carrying a passport, traveling abroad, or even learning a language. I know many international business people, so-called, who travel the world from one Four Seasons or Grand Hyatt to the next, but they are not in the least bit international. In my mind, there are 5 key elements to being an international citizen. First, I think an international citizen is naturally curious and keen to listen and learn. Active listening, as we know, requires patience. It requires respect. It requires a search for common ground. On this particular criteria, I don't think Sam Goldwyn, the founder of Hollywood studio MGM, would have qualified as a very good international citizen. His mantra was, quote, "If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you." Second criterion, I think an international citizen views the complexities of cross-cultural differences as an exciting challenge, not as an imposition, not as a burden. By working with colleagues from diverse backgrounds at home and overseas, we not only learn more about others, we learn more about ourselves and increase our own self-awareness. Thirdly, I think an international citizen is concerned about and works to solve important problems that cross national boundaries, problems that individual nations cannot solve alone, including preserving the planet, combating hunger, managing the global financial system, to name a few. And then fourthly, I think an international citizen is humble enough to know his or her limits. And in this connection, I just would like to relate a story I heard former Prime Minister Tony Blair tell about an early meeting after he was appointed or elected Prime Minister with his French counterpart. And Blair decided to reach out by drawing on his high school French. He boldly began, as he thought, quote, "I am pleased to share my points of view with the French Prime Minister." Observing that many eyeballs began rolling in the room, Blair turned to his aide, who whispered the true translation, "I desire the French Prime Minister in many positions." And fifth and finally, and I think perhaps a little bit more provocatively, I think a good international citizen must first be a good local citizen. The global village may seem more glamorous, but the local village is where most of us spend most of our time. Someone has to figure out how to get the trash collected and whom to hire as the school superintendent. And when Hillary Clinton wrote her book, It Takes a Village, it was the local village, not the global village, that she focused on. If you break your leg and need someone to bring in your groceries, I'm afraid the global village and your Facebook friends on 5 continents can't help you. You need a next-door neighbor. You need the local village. And while the International Citizen Award may seem like a very prestigious and prominent, and I'm sure it is, award to receive, I have to say that, you know, what impresses me is that every day there are millions of citizens who volunteer their time and extend kindnesses to each other in the local villages of every nation. And these acts are the fundamental social glue that make our neighborhoods and communities work. And without them, the impact of those of us who choose to paint our citizenship on an international canvas become entirely problematic. Now, before concluding, I just want to say a few words about my nearly 9 years and more than 100 board meetings as chairman of Massport, an organization that is both local and international in the scope of its operations. So I want to share with you 3 things that I've learned in this role. First, I have learned how professional and of such high integrity the public sector employees that I have worked with have been. And I wish all business people and journalists who gratuitously criticize our public servants could experience what I have seen and experienced. The second thing is that I never thought that doing something for nothing could be as rewarding before I took on this role. So I encourage you, all of you, to serve your city, your town or state in some voluntary capacity, because your life cannot be complete until you do so. And third, I've learned that you can achieve a great deal in public life if you stay out of the limelight. When I became chairman of Massport, the then communications director took me aside to ask how he should handle the media on my behalf. "Jose," I said, "I will judge you by the infrequency with which my name appears in the media. We have a full-time CEO, and Massport will speak with one voice, his, not mine." Well, I want to just acknowledge, going off script for a moment, the wonderful people who are sitting in front of me on this table who process 27 million passengers every year through Logan Airport, and who demonstrate every day a level of attention to your safety and security that if you knew every detail of it, you would be eternally grateful. So please, if you wouldn't mind, thank them on my behalf. So finally, before Colette gets too excited down here that I'm running over, my mother used to tell me, stand up to be seen, speak up to be heard, and sit down to be appreciated. So thank you very much again for the honor. Thank you.
John, we appreciate you for all that you do for our state. And we also thank you for reminding us of our interconnectivity as the world flattens, and our oneness of humanity. And that while we must think global, that we must act local. So thank you very much for that.